The first thing Sloane felt was the smell of expensive coffee, the kind that comes in minimalist packaging and costs more than her electric bill. The second was 1,000-thread-count fabric against her skin. The third was absolute panic. She opened her eyes to a ceiling with crown molding that definitely didn't belong to her studio in Queens. She turned her head. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Manhattan bathed in morning sunlight, at a height that made her stomach flip. She sat up abruptly in the king-size bed, and looked down. She was wearing a men's t-shirt that reached her thighs. Black, expensive, smelling like something between sandalwood and trouble. Good morning, sleepyhead. Sloane nearly fell out of bed. A man was leaning against the bedroom door frame holding 2 coffee cups, looking like he'd stepped out of a Swiss watch ad. Perfectly tousled dark hair, a jawline that could cut glass, suit without a tie at 8 in the morning. And that smile, that maddening smile of someone who knows exactly the effect they have. "Who are you?" Sloane pulled the comforter up to her chin, even though she was already dressed. "And where are my clothes? And why am I in your apartment?" "Our home," he corrected, entering the bedroom with the ease of someone who owns the place. And probably half of Manhattan, too. "Technically, it's been our apartment for 3 months. You've always been terrible in the mornings, but this is new even for you." Sloane blinked. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing changed. The absurdly handsome man was still there, offering coffee as if she weren't having an existential breakdown. "Listen, I don't know what kind of weird fantasy you have, but I definitely don't live here. I live in Queens, in a closet-sized apartment where I can hear my neighbor chewing cereal through the wall." He frowned. Even his frown was annoyingly perfect. "Sloane, stop playing around. We have that meeting with the investors in an hour. You know, the meeting you scheduled? For the gallery expansion?" "Gallery." Sloane felt the room spin. "I work at a coffee shop. I make latte art. Coffee, not real art." The man placed the cups on the nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed, too close for someone she was certain she'd never seen before. He smelled even better up close. This was deeply unfair. "All right." His voice became softer, concerned. "Did you hit your head last night? Because you were fine when we went to bed. A little mad at me about that comment about your mother, but fine. I don't know you." "Sloane." He took her hand, and she hated the fact that it felt familiar, warm. "Right. It's me, Reed. Your husband." The world stopped. "My..." Sloane choked. "My what?" Apparently Reed, lifted her left hand. And there it was. A delicate gold wedding band that she was absolutely certain she wasn't wearing when she went to sleep the night before. In the wrong bed, in the wrong apartment, in the wrong life. "Married for 3 months, he repeated, slower, as if speaking to someone in shock. Which, to be fair, she definitely was. "You really don't remember?" Sloane looked at the ring, then at him, then at the apartment that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes making latte art. She swallowed hard. "I need your phone." "Why?" "Because I need to call myself and figure out what's happening." Reed hesitated, then handed over a top-of-the-line iPhone. Sloane unlocked it. Her fingerprint worked, which was disturbing, and went straight to the photo gallery. What she saw made her brain short-circuit. Photo after photo of her with Reed, in front of what looked like a chic art gallery, at restaurants where the silverware probably cost more than her rent, on Caribbean beaches, wearing dresses she could never afford, laughing, kissing, looking happy. And then she saw it. A wedding photo, small, elegant, just a few friends, her wearing a simple but stunning dress, looking at Reed like he was the only person on the planet. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "Sloane." Reed took the phone back, his expression shifting from concerned to genuinely alarmed. "You're scaring me. I'm calling Dr. Chen." "No." She got out of bed, her legs wobbly. "No, I just need a minute." She stumbled to the bathroom, a bathroom bigger than her current bedroom, and closed the door. The mirror revealed the same face as always. Messy auburn hair, wide hazel eyes, a small scar above her left eyebrow from a childhood accident. But there was something different. She looked rested, well cared for, like she hadn't survived on coffee and anxiety for the past few years. Sloane opened the sink drawer. Skincare products from brands she only saw in magazines, electric toothbrush, and a toiletry bag with medications. She grabbed one of the bottles, Sloane Whitmore Carrington. She'd taken his name. Okay, she said to her reflection. Okay, either I'm having the most elaborate dream of my life, or I woke up in an alternate reality, or the third option she didn't want to consider, that she really was married to this man and had somehow lost 3 entire months of memory. A soft knock on the door. "Sloane, can I come in?" She opened the door. Reed was standing there, now with his tie in place, completely dressed to conquer Wall Street or whatever absurdly wealthy men do on Tuesday mornings. "Listen," he said, and for the first time she saw vulnerability in his eyes. "I don't know what's going on, but we'll figure this out together, okay? You and me, like always." And Sloane, still processing the fact that she'd apparently married a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a cologne campaign, could only think one thing: what did I do last night? Sloane stood in front of a walk-in closet that was larger than her entire Queens apartment. Rows of designer dresses hung in perfect color coordination. Shoes that cost more than her monthly rent lined built-in shelves. And in the center, on a velvet mannequin, sat an outfit clearly meant for today. Tailored navy blazer, cream silk blouse, pencil skirt that screamed, "I own an art gallery and your opinion doesn't matter." "This is insane," she muttered, running her fingers over the fabric. Everything fit perfectly. Because apparently alternate universe Sloane had impeccable taste and unlimited funds. "Sloane?" Reed's voice came from the bedroom. "We really need to leave in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. To figure out how to pretend she knew anything about running an art gallery, being married, or living a life that cost more per month than she'd made in a year." She changed quickly. The clothes fit like they were made for her, which they probably were, and stared at herself in the full-length mirror. She looked like someone who belonged in this apartment. Someone confident. Someone who scheduled meetings with investors and didn't panic about it. "Fake it till you make it," she whispered to her reflection. When she emerged from the closet, Reed was waiting by the door, briefcase in hand, looking at his watch. Then he looked up at her, and his expression shifted to something she couldn't quite read. Appreciation, relief, something warmer that made her stomach flip. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "I look like I'm about to present to a board of directors," Sloane replied, adjusting the blazer nervously. "Well, yes. That's exactly what you're about to do." Reed tilted his head, studying her. "Are you sure you're okay? We can reschedule. The Miyamoto Group will understand if—" "The Miyamoto Group?" Sloane felt her blood pressure spike. "As in, the international investment firm worth billions?" "Yes, your gallery's biggest potential investors." Reed moved closer, concern evident in his dark eyes. "Sloane, what's the last thing you actually remember?" She wanted to tell him the truth, that the last thing she remembered was falling asleep in her lumpy twin bed after a double shift at the coffee shop, smelling like espresso and burned milk, with exactly $847 in her bank account and a mountain of student debt. Instead, she went with, "I remember being tired, really tired." Not technically a lie. Reed's jaw tightened. "We're calling Dr. Chen after this meeting. No arguments." "Sure," Sloane agreed, because what else could she say? She followed him out of the apartment and into a private elevator. Of course, they had a private elevator. The ride down gave her a moment to panic internally, while maintaining external composure. Gallery, investors, millions of dollars. Don't mess this up for alternate universe you. They emerged into an underground garage where a sleek black Tesla waited. Reed opened the passenger door for her, because apparently he was that kind of husband, and Sloane slid in, trying to remember if she even knew how to be this version of herself. The drive through Manhattan was quiet. Reed kept glancing at her, clearly worried, while Sloane stared out the window at a city that looked familiar but felt foreign. She lived here. She worked here. But this view from a luxury car, heading to a meeting about her own art gallery, this was someone else's life. "We're here," Reed said, pulling up to a stunning brownstone in Chelsea. A discreet bronze plaque read, "Whitmore Gallery, Contemporary Art." Whitmore, her name, her maiden name. "I own this?" The words escaped before she could stop them. Reed turned off the engine and faced her fully. "Sloane, you built this from nothing. 3 years ago, you were working at that coffee shop in Queens. Yes, I know about that. You told me on our second date, and saving every penny to open this place. You took a risk on unknown artists, and now you're one of the most respected curators in the city." He reached over and squeezed her hand. Whatever's happening with your memory, don't doubt what you've accomplished. You earned every square inch of that gallery. Something in his voice made her believe him, or maybe it was the way he looked at her, like she was capable of anything. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. They walked into the gallery together, and Sloane was immediately struck by the space. High ceilings, perfect lighting, walls displaying bold contemporary pieces that actually moved her. This was hers. A young woman with bright pink hair and multiple piercings rushed over, tablet in hand. Sloane, the Miyamoto representatives just texted. They're 5 minutes out. I've got the portfolio ready, the presentation loaded, and I triple-checked the numbers like you asked. She paused, eyeing Sloane. You okay? You look weird. Define weird, Sloane said. Like you forgot where you parked your car or who you married. The woman grinned at Reed. Morning, Mr. Carrington. Want me to grab you coffee while you wait? I'm sitting in on this one, Jenna, Reed said smoothly. Jenna's eyebrows shot up. Really? Sloane, you said you wanted to handle this yourself. Something about proving you don't need your husband's money or reputation to succeed. Sloane looked at Reed, who had the grace to appear sheepish. I may have been opinionated about that, Sloane said carefully. You threw a portfolio binder at his head. Jenna supplied helpfully. I dodged, Reed added. Barely. Before Sloane could process this glimpse into their apparently volatile marriage, the gallery door opened. 3 people walked in. 2 men in expensive suits, and a woman who looked like she could buy and sell Manhattan before lunch. Ms. Whitmore, the woman said, extending her hand. Keiko Miyamoto, we're excited to discuss the expansion proposal. Sloane shook her hand, and something clicked into place. Maybe it was survival instinct. Maybe it was muscle memory from a life she didn't remember living. But when she opened her mouth, the words came. Ms. Miyamoto, thank you for coming. Let me show you why investing in emerging artists isn't just profitable. It's essential. And for the next hour, Sloane Whitmore became someone she didn't recognize but desperately wanted to be. Confident, knowledgeable, passionate about art and artists, and the business of making beauty accessible. She presented numbers she didn't remember researching, discussed artists she didn't remember discovering, and made a case for expansion she definitely didn't remember preparing. Reed stayed silent in the corner, but she could feel his eyes on her the entire time, watching, worrying, or maybe admiring. When the Miyamoto group finally left, with promises to seriously consider the proposal, Sloane collapsed into a chair. That, Jenna said, was epic. Even for you. I need water, Sloane managed. And possibly an existential crisis. Reed crossed the gallery to crouch in front of her chair. You were incredible, just like always. I don't remember always, Sloane said quietly. I don't remember any of this. Then we'll figure out what happened, Reed said firmly. Together, starting with Dr. Chen. He paused. But first, can I ask you something? Sure. Last night, before bed, we had an argument. Do you remember what it was about? Sloane shook her head. Reed's expression was unreadable. We were discussing whether to start trying for a baby. The world tilted again. And what? Sloane's voice cracked. What did I say? You said you weren't ready, that you wanted to focus on the gallery expansion first. Reed stood, offering his hand to help her up. But the way you're looking at me right now, you're not the woman I argued with last night. No, Sloane admitted, taking his hand and letting him pull her to her feet. I'm really not. Then who are you? It was the million-dollar question, literally, and Sloane had absolutely no idea how to answer it. Dr. Patricia Chen's office was nothing like Sloane expected. Instead of sterile white walls and uncomfortable chairs, it looked like someone's incredibly well-decorated living room. Warm lighting, plush sofas, abstract art that actually meant something. A diffuser pumped out lavender scent, and soft instrumental music played from hidden speakers. Well, Sloane muttered to Reed as they sat in the waiting area. At least if I'm losing my mind, I'm doing it in style. Reed didn't laugh. He'd been silent since they left the gallery, his jaw tight, one hand drumming against his knee. A nervous tic she somehow recognized despite supposedly not knowing him. How was that possible? How could her body remember things her mind didn't? Mr. and Mrs. Carrington? A woman in her 50s appeared, glasses perched on her head, wearing jeans and a cardigan that screamed, Cool therapist aunt. Come on back. They followed her into an office that was even cozier than the waiting room. Dr. Chen gestured to a couch. Not opposite chairs, Sloane noted, but a couch where they'd sit together, and settled into an armchair across from them. So, Dr. Chen said, pulling out a tablet. Reed called me this morning and said we had an emergency. Sloane, why don't you tell me what's going on? Sloane glanced at Reed, who nodded encouragingly. Here goes nothing. I woke up this morning in an apartment I don't remember living in, next to a man I don't remember marrying, with a career I don't remember building. She took a breath. The last thing I actually remember is falling asleep in my studio in Queens 3 nights ago. I was a barista, single, broke, and definitely not running an art gallery or married to someone who owns half of Manhattan. Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral, but her fingers moved rapidly across the tablet. And Reed, when did you notice something was wrong? The moment she woke up, Reed said quietly. She looked at me like I was a stranger, called me the chefy. Wait, no. She said, the boss in Portuguese, which was weird because Sloane doesn't speak Portuguese. Then she asked where her clothes were and why she was in my apartment. Not our apartment. My apartment. Sloane blinked. I said that in Portuguese. You said, o chefe disse nossa casa, Reed replied. I took 2 years of Portuguese in college. I understood it. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Sloane, do you speak Portuguese? No. I mean, I took Spanish in high school, but she stopped, because now that she thought about it, she had understood what Reed just said. The words made sense in her head, even though she'd never studied the language. This is getting weirder. Let's run through some basics, Dr. Chen said calmly. What's your full name? Sloane Elizabeth Whitmore. She paused. Wait, is it Carrington now? I saw it on a prescription bottle. You kept Whitmore professionally, but took Carrington legally, Reed supplied. You said it was important for the gallery to have your name on it. Dr. Chen made a note. Sloane, what year is it? 2024. December. Sloane frowned. Right? It's 2024, yes, December 18th. Dr. Chen looked up. What's the last major world event you remember? Sloane thought hard. The election? Trump won again. That happened in November. Correct. What about personal events? What was the last significant thing that happened in your life? Before this morning. I got passed over for a shift manager position at the coffee shop, Sloane said. My roommate Bex told me I should quit and focus on my art, but I can't afford to quit. I have student loans, rent. I barely make enough as it is. She laughed bitterly. Guess alternate universe me figured it out. Reed's hand found hers on the couch. She should have pulled away. This stranger who claimed to be her husband, but she didn't. His hand was warm, steady, and that feeling of rightness washed over her again. Dr. Chen watched the interaction with interest. Reed, tell me about the last few weeks. Any changes in Sloane's behavior? Stress? Health issues? She's been working non-stop on the Miyamoto proposal, Reed said. Late nights at the gallery, barely sleeping, living on coffee and takeout. I tried to get her to slow down, but I'm stubborn, Sloane finished, and the words felt true even though she didn't remember saying them. Exactly. Reed smiled slightly, but it didn't reach his eyes. We had a fight about it last week. I said she was burning herself out. She said I didn't understand what it was like to build something from nothing, that I was born into my family's real estate empire and couldn't possibly. He stopped. We said things we didn't mean. Did you make up? Dr. Chen asked. Eventually. We always do. Reed's thumb traced circles on Sloane's palm. But then last night we fought again, about starting a family. She wanted to wait until after the expansion. I thought we'd been waiting long enough. It got heated. Sloane tried to imagine being angry at this man, but all she felt was a strange mix of curiosity and attraction, which was insane. You couldn't be attracted to someone you didn't remember, except apparently, her body hadn't gotten that memo. Sloane, Dr. Chen said gently, have you experienced any head trauma recently? Falls? Car accidents? Anything? Not that I remember. But then again, I apparently don't remember the last 3 months, so my track record isn't great. Dr. Chen smiled. Fair point. I'm going to refer you to a neurologist colleague of mine. Dr. Rashid specializes in memory disorders. This could be anything from retrograde amnesia caused by stress to something more serious. We need imaging, blood work, The full diagnostic panel. What about, Sloane hesitated. What if I never remember? What if this is permanent? The question hung in the air. Reed's hand tightened around hers. Then we deal with it, he said firmly. Together. You say that now, Sloane said, pulling her hand away. But you don't even know me, the real me. The broke barista who eats ramen for dinner and hasn't bought new clothes in 2 years. That's who I am. Not, she gestured vaguely at herself. This. That is who you are, Reed countered, shifting to face her fully. You think you stopped being that person just because you're successful now? Sloane, you still eat ramen when you're stressed. You still buy second-hand books instead of new ones. Last month you cried because one of your artists, a kid from the Bronx, sold his first piece for $10,000. You gave him every penny and didn't take your usual commission. His voice softened. You're still you. You just added some layers. Sloane stared at him. At this man who apparently knew her better than she knew herself right now. And something cracked in her chest. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. Reed took her hand again. Me too. Dr. Chen cleared her throat gently. I'm going to make some calls and get you in with Dr. Rashid this afternoon if possible. In the meantime, I want you both to go home, rest, and try not to spiral. Sloane, I know this is overwhelming, but panicking won't help. Reed, she needs support, not pressure. Can you both do that? They nodded in unison. As they left the office, Sloane felt Reed's hand on the small of her back. Protective, familiar. They walked to the car in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that felt lived in, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Reed opened her door, and as she slid into the passenger seat, she caught him watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. It wasn't just worry. It was something deeper, something that looked a lot like, "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just," he shook his head. "You smiled at Dr. Chen the same way you smiled at me on our first date. This little half smile like you're not sure if you should trust what's happening but you want to anyway. Tell me about it," Sloane said impulsively. "Our first date." Reed closed her door and walked around to the driver's side. Once he was settled, he didn't start the car immediately. Instead, he stared out the windshield, a small smile playing at his lips. "You spilled coffee on me," he said. "What?" "I came into your coffee shop, the one in Queens, not some fancy Manhattan place. I just had the worst meeting of my life. My father wanted me to take over the company, and I just told him I wanted to do something different with my life. We fought. I needed air. I ended up at your place." He glanced at her. "You were making someone's elaborate order, half-calf, oat milk, sugar-free vanilla monstrosity, and you turned around right as I was walking past, dumped an entire latte down my front. Please tell me I didn't." "Oh, you did. You went white, then red, then started apologizing so fast I could barely understand you. And then," Reed laughed, the sound genuine and warm. "Then you looked at my suit and said, 'Honestly, the coffee is an improvement. That tie was a crime against fashion.'" Despite everything, Sloane felt herself smile. "I didn't. You absolutely did. And you were right, it was a hideous tie. My father's choice." Reed started the car. "You made me a new coffee on the house and we started talking. I stayed until your shift ended. Then we went to this tiny Thai place around the corner and talked until midnight. I asked for your number. You said only if I promised to burn the tie. Did you?" "Burned it that night and sent you a video as proof." He pulled out of the parking spot. "You texted back, 'Now we can go on a real date.' We went to the Museum of Modern Art. You spent 3 hours explaining why contemporary art wasn't pretentious garbage. I fell in love with you somewhere between the Pollocks and the Warhols." Sloane's chest felt tight. "How long ago was this?" 10 months. We got married 3 months ago in a courthouse ceremony because you said you didn't want a big wedding. Said the money could go toward opening your gallery instead." Reed's voice was thick with emotion. "I would have married you in a parking lot if that's what you wanted. I just wanted you to be my wife." "Reed, I know you don't remember. I know I'm essentially a stranger to you right now. But Sloane, I need you to know something." He glanced at her as they stopped at a red light. "Whether you remember or not, whether it takes days or years or never happens at all, I'm not going anywhere. We made vows, in sickness and in health, remember?" "I don't, actually," Sloane said softly. "Remember the vows, I mean. Then I'll remind you every day until you do." They drove home. Home. She had to start thinking of it that way, in silence. But this time, Sloane found herself studying Reed's profile. The strong nose, the slight stubble on his jaw, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He was objectively handsome, but more than that, he seemed good, kind. The kind of man who burned ugly ties and waded through 3-hour art lectures and promised to stay even when things got impossibly complicated. The kind of man she might have fallen in love with. Might have. Who was she kidding? Based on the wedding photos, she absolutely had. When they got back to the apartment, Sloane headed straight for the living room and started looking around. Really looking this time. Photos on the shelves. Her and Reed at the gallery opening, laughing. Her and Reed on a beach somewhere tropical. His arms around her waist. Her and Reed in the kitchen, covered in flour. Her kissing his cheek while he laughed. They looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. "Can I ask you something?" Sloane said without turning around. "Anything. Last night, when we fought about having a baby, what did you say?" "Exactly." Reed was quiet for a long moment. "I said that I wanted to build a life with you. Not just a gallery or a company or a bank account. A life, with kids and chaos and all the messy, beautiful parts of being a family." He paused. "I said I was tired of waiting for the perfect time because there is no perfect time. And I asked if maybe you were using the gallery as an excuse because you were scared." "What did I say?" "You said I was right, that you were terrified of screwing up a kid the way your parents screwed you up. And then you said you needed time to think." Sloane turned to face him. "My parents screwed me up? Your father left when you were 8. Your mother worked 3 jobs to keep you afloat but was never around. You raised yourself, basically. Put yourself through college. You told me once that you were afraid of becoming your mother. So focused on survival that you forgot how to actually live." The words hit like a punch to the gut, because they were true, even without the memories of the last 3 months. That was her story. Her fear. "I think," Sloane said slowly, "that the me you married was braver than the me I remember being." "No," Reed said, crossing the room to stand in front of her. "You've always been brave. You just finally had the resources to show it." He reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture so casual and intimate that Sloane's breath caught. "Can I try something?" he asked softly. "What?" "Close your eyes." Sloane hesitated, then did as he asked. She felt Reed step closer, felt the warmth of him, smelled that sandalwood scent that had surrounded her when she woke up. "Think about this morning," he murmured, "when I touched your hand in Dr. Chen's office. What did you feel?" "Safe," Sloane whispered. Like coming home." "And now?" His lips brushed her forehead, feather light, and suddenly, Sloane was drowning in sensation, the feeling of his arms around her, the sound of his laugh, the taste of coffee and possibility, fragments of memories that weren't quite memories but felt more real than anything else. She opened her eyes to find Reed watching her with devastating intensity. "I almost remember," she breathed. "It's like trying to recall a dream. I can feel it, but I can't quite see it." "Then we'll make new memories," Reed said. "Starting now." His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. He checked it and frowned. "Dr. Rashid can see you in an hour. We should go." "Okay." Sloane nodded, trying to ignore the disappointment flooding through her. "Okay, let's get some answers." But as they headed out the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that the answer she was looking for wasn't in a doctor's office or a brain scan. It was in the way Reed looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, like she was the only thing in the world worth remembering. Dr. Amir Rashid looked like he should be modeling for a medical drama, not actually practicing medicine. Sharp cheekbones, silver-streaked black hair, and the kind of calm demeanor that probably came from years of delivering bad news to panicked patients. "Mrs. Carrington," he said, gesturing to the examination chair, "let's figure out what's going on in that brain of yours." Sloane sat while Reed hovered near the door, clearly wanting to be close but not wanting to crowd her. The examination was thorough, uncomfortably so. Lights in her eyes, reflexes tested, questions about her medical history that she couldn't answer because she didn't remember the last 3 months of it. "Any history of migraines?" Dr. Rashid asked, making notes on his tablet. "Not that I remember, but again, my memory is the problem here." "Fair point." He smiled slightly. "Seizures? Fainting spells? Drug use?" No, and absolutely not." "Any recent travel? Exposure to toxins? Carbon monoxide?" Sloane glanced at Reed, who shook his head. "We haven't traveled since our honeymoon in August," Reed said. And the apartment has working CO detectors. I'm obsessive about that stuff. Dr. Rashid nodded, still typing. What about stress? Major life changes besides, getting married and opening a gallery. Isn't that enough? Sloane muttered. You'd be surprised what the human brain can handle. But yes, those are significant stressors. He put down the tablet and rolled his chair closer. Here's what I'm thinking. We're going to do an MRI to rule out any structural issues. Tumors, lesions, that sort of thing. Blood work to check for infections, vitamin deficiencies, thyroid problems. And I want you to keep a journal. A journal? Write down everything. What you remember, what you don't. Any flashes of memory that come back. Sometimes retrograde amnesia resolves on its own, and documenting the process can help us understand the pattern. He paused. I'm also going to ask you something that might sound strange. Do you feel like yourself? Sloane blinked. What do you mean? I mean, setting aside the missing memories. Do you feel like you're inhabiting your own body, your own mind? Or does it feel like you're watching someone else's life? The question struck something deep. Both, Sloane said slowly. It feels like I'm me, but I'm also watching this other version of me who has her life together, who took risks and made them pay off, who married an incredible man and built something real. She looked at Reed, who was watching her intently. It feels like someone wrote a fan fiction of my life where everything worked out. Interesting way to put it. Dr. Rashid made another note. And emotionally? How do you feel about Mr. Carrington? Sloane felt her cheeks heat. Can he leave the room for this? Absolutely not, Reed said immediately, then caught himself. Sorry. I mean, if you want me to leave, I will. Stay. The word came out before Sloane could overthink it. She turned back to Dr. Rashid. I feel connected to him, which makes no sense because I don't remember him. But when he touches me, it feels right, familiar, like my body remembers even if my brain doesn't. That's actually more common than you'd think, Dr. Rashid said. Emotional and muscle memory can persist even when explicit memories don't. It's why people with amnesia might still know how to play piano or speak a language. The procedural memory remains intact. So my body married him even if my brain doesn't remember the wedding? Something like that. Dr. Rashid smiled. The MRI will take about an hour. I can fit you in now if you're available. Results should be back by tomorrow morning. An hour later, Sloane was lying in the MRI machine, trying not to panic as it made sounds like a dubstep concert being held inside a washing machine. She'd been given headphones playing classical music, but it barely drowned out the mechanical banging. Close your eyes, breathe, think about something else. She thought about Reed, about the way he'd looked at her in the apartment, like she hung the moon, about his story of their first date, the coffee spill, the terrible tie, the Museum of Modern Art. She tried to picture it, to force the memory back through sheer willpower, and then, suddenly, she saw it. Not a clear memory, but fragments, flashes. A man in a gray suit with a hideous orange tie, coffee spreading across expensive fabric. Her own voice mortified. I am so sorry. Wait, is that tie clip a tiny Trump tower? Who gave you that? Laughter, deep and genuine and surprised. My father. He has terrible taste, but I love him anyway. You should love him from a distance, like across state lines. More laughter. You're not wrong. I'm Reed, by the way. Reed Carrington. Sloane. Whitmore. And I really am sorry about the coffee. Don't be. This suit was making me look like a Wall Street villain. You did me a favor. The MRI machine banged louder, and the memory, if it even was a memory, dissolved like smoke. When they finally pulled her out, Sloane was shaking. You okay? The technician asked. I remembered something, Sloane said. I think, maybe. Reed was waiting in the lobby, pacing. He looked up when she emerged, relief flooding his face. How was it? Loud, claustrophobic, but She grabbed his arm. Reed, tell me about the tie clip, the one you were wearing when we met. His eyebrows shot up. The Trump Tower one? The miniature gold monstrosity my father gave me? You still have it? I do, actually. Couldn't bring myself to throw it away even though it's hideous. It's in my office at home. Why? Because I remember it. Sloane's voice came out breathless. Not everything, just fragments. You laughed when I made fun of it. You said your father had terrible taste, but you loved him anyway. Reed's hands came up to cup her face. You said I should love him from across state lines. I did, didn't I? Sloane laughed, and it turned into something dangerously close to a sob. It's coming back. Pieces of it. Hey. Reed pulled her close, and Sloane let herself sink into the embrace. He smelled like sandalwood and something else, something uniquely him, and it was simultaneously foreign and the most natural thing in the world. It's okay. Even if it doesn't all come back, we'll be okay. How can you be so calm about this? Sloane mumbled into his chest. Because I have you. Memory or no memory, I have you. He pulled back enough to look at her. And honestly, getting to make you fall in love with me twice sounds like the kind of challenge I'm stupid enough to enjoy. Despite everything, Sloane laughed. You're ridiculous. You married me. What does that say about you? That I have excellent taste and questionable judgment. There's my wife. Reed's smile was soft, affectionate, and Sloane felt something shift in her chest. Not quite love. She couldn't love someone she barely knew, but the beginning of it, the possibility. They were halfway to the car when Sloane's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, a sleek iPhone in a case covered with abstract art, and stared at the screen. Jenna, Miyamoto Group just called. They want to move up the final decision meeting to tomorrow at 9 a.m. Also, there's a journalist here who wants to interview you about the gallery for New York Magazine. Should I tell her to come back later? Oh no, Sloane said. What? Your assistant? My assistant? Jenna. The Miyamoto meeting moved up, and apparently I'm supposed to be interviewed by New York Magazine. She looked at Reed helplessly. I can't do an interview. I don't even remember opening the gallery. So we tell them you're sick. Reschedule. I already rescheduled once this month according to my calendar. They'll think I'm flaking. Sloane scrolled through her phone, finding dozens of emails, texts, calendar invites. The life of successful Sloane was busy and complicated and terrifying. This is insane. How did I manage all of this? Carefully, obsessively, with a lot of coffee and very little sleep. Reed took the phone gently. Let me text Jenna. We'll push the interview to next week and tell Miyamoto you're dealing with a medical emergency, which is technically true. They'll think I'm unreliable. They'll think you're human. He typed quickly, then handed the phone back. Done. Now let's go home. You need to rest. I need to figure out my life. Tomorrow. Tonight we order Thai food. Watch something mindless on TV and pretend your brain isn't actively betraying you. Sloane wanted to argue, but the exhaustion hit her all at once. The adrenaline from the morning, waking up in a strange apartment, the investor meeting, the therapy session, the MRI crashed, leaving her hollowed out. Okay, she said quietly. Thai food and mindless TV sounds good. The apartment felt less intimidating when they got back. Reed kicked off his shoes, expensive loafers that probably cost more than Sloane's old monthly rent, and loosened his tie. Somehow, watching him transition from polished businessman to relaxed human made him more real. Less like a character in someone else's story and more like her husband. You want to change? Reed asked. I can grab you something comfortable. I can get it. Sloane headed to the bedroom, to that massive walk-in closet. This time, instead of being overwhelmed, she looked for herself in the choices. And there, pushed to the back behind the designer dresses and tailored blazers, she found them. Faded jeans, oversized sweaters, vintage t-shirts from bands and museums. The clothes felt right in a way the expensive pieces didn't. She changed into soft joggers and a MoMA t-shirt that had clearly been washed 100 times, then padded back to the living room in bare feet. Reed had changed too, jeans and a Henley, and was setting up takeout menus on the coffee table. When he saw her, something in his expression softened. That's my favorite shirt of yours, he said. Yeah? You were wearing it the first time you stayed over at my place. Woke up the next morning and made terrible coffee in my kitchen, singing along to Fleetwood Mac. He smiled at the memory. You looked so at home, like you belonged there, with me. Sloane touched the shirt. I can almost see it. The kitchen, granite counters, stupid fancy espresso machine you didn't know how to use. I bought that machine specifically to impress you, backfired spectacularly. I made fun of you, relentlessly. Then you showed me how to actually use it, and we drank awful lattes and talked about your dream gallery until noon. Reed moved closer. You told me about every artist you wanted to showcase, every vision you had. You were so passionate, Sloane, so alive. I knew right then I wanted to spend the rest of my life watching you build that dream. And you helped me build it? I funded the lease. You did everything else. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You were so stubborn about accepting help. Said you wanted to earn it yourself. We fought about it. We fight a lot, apparently. We do, Reed admitted. But we make up better. The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. Sloane's breath caught as Reed's hand lingered near her face, his thumb tracing her jawline. It would be so easy to close the distance, to kiss him, to let her body remember what her mind couldn't. But then his phone rang, shattering the moment. Reed swore under his breath and checked the screen. It's my father, I should… Take it, Sloane said, stepping back. I'll order the food. She watched him disappear into his office, their office, and tried to calm her racing heart. This was too much too fast. She'd woken up this morning not knowing this man existed, and now she was contemplating kissing him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Because it is natural. You married him. You chose him. But did she? Or did the other Sloane? Successful, brave, put-together Sloane choose him? Were they even the same person? Sloane ordered pad thai, spring rolls, and that mango sticky rice Reed had apparently loved since their first date together. Then she sank onto the couch and pulled up her phone's photo gallery again. Hundreds of pictures. Her and Reed at restaurants, museums, beaches. Her at the gallery opening, champagne in hand, beaming. Her with Jenna and other people she didn't recognize, friends presumably. Her life documented and foreign. She found a video and pressed play. Stop filming me, you menace. Her own voice laughing. The camera was shaky, pointing at her in this very living room, wearing paint-stained overalls. Behind her, a half-finished abstract painting hung on the wall. Never. Reed's voice came from behind the camera. You're too beautiful when you're creating. I'm covered in cadmium red and existential dread. Still beautiful. Flatterer. She threw a paintbrush at the camera. It missed and grinned. Fine, but if you're documenting this, help me with the upper corner. I can't reach. The camera shifted as Reed approached. What do you need? That blue. The cerulean. Mix it with the white. No, more white. More. Perfect. The video showed Reed's hand passing her the brush, then moved to show both of them reflected in a window. Her painting. Him watching her with unmistakable adoration. I love you, he said. So quietly Sloane almost missed it. On screen, she turned and kissed him, leaving a smudge of blue paint on his cheek. I love you too, even though you're a terrible assistant. I'm an excellent assistant. I bring you food and coffee and compliments. You bring me distractions. The best kind. The video ended. Sloane stared at the black screen, her reflection staring back. That woman in the video was her. Same face, same voice, same terrible habit of chewing her bottom lip when concentrating. But she seemed lighter, happier, like she'd shed some invisible weight Sloane had been carrying her whole life. Food's here, Reed called from the entryway. Sloane set down her phone and went to help him with the bags. They set up on the coffee table, an absurd amount of Thai food spread between them, and settled onto the couch with mindless action movie playing in the background. Something with explosions and quips and zero emotional weight. It was perfect. So, Sloane said around a mouthful of pad thai, tell me something embarrassing about you. Level the playing field since you know everything about me, and I know nothing about you. Reed considered this, twirling lo mein on his fork. I'm terrified of birds. Birds. Pigeons specifically. Got attacked by a flock when I was 7, still can't walk past them without flinching. Sloane laughed, surprised. The man who runs a multi-million-dollar real estate empire is afraid of pigeons? We all have our weaknesses, that's mine. He pointed his fork at her. You're afraid of deep water. Learn to swim as an adult but still panic if you can't touch the bottom. How did you? Sloane stopped. Right. You know me. I do. Reed's expression was serious now. And I'm going to keep telling you these things until you remember, or until you learn them again, whichever comes first. What if I'm different this time? What if I remember and I'm not the same person you married? Then I'll fall in love with the new version. Reed said it so simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Sloane, I didn't fall in love with your success or your gallery or your perfect life. I fell in love with you, the woman who makes terrible jokes when she's nervous, who cries at art museums, who eats ramen at 3 a.m. and calls it a midnight snack. That person doesn't change just because your circumstances do. Sloane set down her food, her throat tight. You're really good at this husband thing. I've had practice, 3 months worth, he smiled. Though if I'm being honest, I'm winging it just as much as you are. This isn't exactly a situation the wedding vows covered. In amnesia and in health? Something like that. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, the kind that felt earned even though they'd technically only known each other, from Sloane's perspective, for about 12 hours. When the credits rolled on the movie neither of them had been watching, Reed started cleaning up. I can help, Sloane began. You've had a long day. Go get ready for bed. I'll handle this. Reed, Sloane. He turned to face her. Let me take care of you. Please. There was something vulnerable in his voice. Something that suggested he needed this as much as she might need to be taken care of. So she nodded and headed to the bedroom. The bathroom was stocked with everything she needed. Her skincare routine apparently involved 7 steps and products she'd never heard of. She did her best, brushed her teeth, and changed into pajamas that were softer than anything she'd owned in her previous life. When she emerged, Reed was sitting on his side of the bed. She knew it was his side somehow, the knowledge instinctive, in pajama pants and a t-shirt, reading something on his tablet. Hey, he said, looking up. Dr. Rashid emailed. Your MRI and blood work are scheduled for first thing tomorrow morning. Results by end of day. Fast. I may have called in a favor. Rashid owes me from when I helped his daughter find an apartment in the city. Reed set down the tablet. You want the left side or right? Sloane looked at the massive bed. Which side do I usually sleep on? Left. You say the right side is too close to the door and you don't like feeling exposed. She climbed into the left side, and it did feel right. The pillows were exactly the right firmness, the blanket weight perfect. Her body knew this space even if her mind didn't. Reed settled on his side, maintaining a careful distance. If you need anything tonight, water, space, someone to talk to, just wake me. I'm a light sleeper anyway. Okay. Sloane hesitated. Reed, thank you for being so patient with all this. You'd do the same for me. Would I? You did. He rolled onto his side to face her. Last year I had a panic attack before a huge presentation. First one I'd ever had. I thought I was dying. You talked me through it, stayed with me all night, helped me rewrite the presentation to focus on what I actually cared about instead of what my father wanted. His eyes were soft in the dim light. You saved me then. Let me return the favor now. Sloane's chest ached. I wish I remembered that. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. Either way, it happened. We happened. He reached across the space between them, his hand open on the sheets. An invitation, not a demand. After a moment, Sloane took it. They fell asleep like that, hands clasped in the darkness, 2 people trying to find their way back to each other across an ocean of forgotten moments. And somewhere in her dreams, Sloane heard laughter and saw coffee spilling across an expensive suit, and felt the exact moment she'd fallen in love with a stranger who became her home. Sloane woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. Real coffee. The expensive kind that Reed had been trying to ply her with since yesterday morning. For a blissful half-second, she forgot everything. Then reality crashed back. The amnesia, the stranger husband, the life she couldn't remember living. She rolled over to find Reed's side of the bed empty but still warm. A note sat on his pillow, written in bold, confident handwriting. Gone for a run. Coffee in the kitchen? MRI results appointment at 10 a.m. Take your time. R. Sloane picked up the note, studying the handwriting. Something about it tugged at her memory. Not a specific moment, but a feeling. She'd seen this handwriting before. On sticky notes, birthday cards, love letters. She found her phone on the nightstand. 48 unread messages, mostly from Jenna about gallery business, and scrolled until she found the photo album labeled Notes from Reed. Hundreds of photos of sticky notes, napkin scribbles, text messages screenshotted and saved. Small gestures of affection documented over months. Out getting bagels. Grabbed you and everything with cream cheese even though you'll pretend you're too full for breakfast. R. Your 3 p.m. canceled. Come home early. I miss you. R. You're going to be amazing today. The investors would be idiots not to see it. R. Found your sketchbook under the couch. Your new designs are incredible. When did you get so talented? Don't answer that. You've always been talented. I'm just slow. R. Each note was small, mundane, perfect. The accumulated weight of daily affection from someone who loved her enough to leave coffee and compliments and everything bagels. Sloane pressed her palm to her chest, feeling something crack open. This was real. This life, this man, this love. It had all been real, even if she couldn't remember it. She got up, showered in a bathroom that had heated floors, and dressed in jeans and a soft sweater that felt more like her than yesterday's blazer. When she emerged into the kitchen, Reed was there, sweaty from his run, drinking water straight from a glass bottle. "Morning," he said, slightly breathless. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I expected." Sloane poured herself coffee. The machine was blessedly simple, no fancy espresso nonsense, and leaned against the counter. "I looked through my phone. The notes you leave me." Reed's expression shifted, guarded. "Yeah? Why do I save them? I mean, there are hundreds. You said—" He set down the water bottle, considering his words. "You said they reminded you that you weren't alone anymore, that someone was thinking about you even when you were apart." He cleared his throat. "You had a rough day about 2 months ago. An artist you believed in got torn apart by a critic, and you took it personally. I came home and found you crying in the closet, surrounded by all the notes I'd left you over the months. You said they were proof that good things could be real." Sloane's throat tightened. "That sounds like something I'd do. The crying in the closet part, I mean. The woman I married has a tendency to feel everything at maximum volume. Joy, anger, grief. You don't do anything halfway." Reed moved closer. "It's terrifying and beautiful and exhausting, and I love it. I love you." The words hung between them, simple and devastating. "I'm trying," Sloane said quietly, "to remember, to feel what I'm supposed to feel. But it's like trying to hold water. The harder I grip, the faster it slips away." "Then stop gripping." Reed took her coffee cup and set it on the counter, then took her hands. "Stop trying to force it. Just be here, with me, right now." "Okay." Sloane met his eyes. "Tell me something. Not about our past. About you. Something I might not know even if I had my memory." Reed thought for a moment. "I hate my job." Sloane blinked. "What? The real estate empire my father built? I hate it. The deals, the contracts, the endless meetings about profit margins and development projects. I'm good at it, but it makes me miserable." He laughed bitterly. "You know what I actually want to do? Teach. High school history. Help kids understand that the past matters, that it shapes everything we are. So why don't you? Because my father is 68 and refusing to retire, and someone needs to keep the company running. Because I'm the oldest son and that comes with expectations. Because—" He stopped. "Because until I met you, I didn't think I deserved to want anything different. What changed? You told me I was being an idiot. That life's too short to spend it living someone else's dream." Reed smiled, but it was sad. "You said if I could watch you risk everything to open a gallery, I could risk disappointing my father to be happy. Did you? Disappoint him?" "Not yet, but I'm getting close." He squeezed her hands. "That fight I mentioned, right before I met you, I'd told him I wanted out. He didn't take it well, called me ungrateful, said I was throwing away the family legacy. I walked out and ended up at your coffee shop wearing that stupid tie, and you spilled latte all over me and made fun of my father's taste. Best meet cute ever," Sloane murmured. "Right?" Reed's smile turned genuine. "You saved me that day. Not just from the tie, from the life I was supposed to want but didn't." Before Sloane could respond, her phone buzzed. A reminder. Dr. Rashid appointment, 10 a.m. "Don't be late." "We should go," Reed said, releasing her hands. "You want breakfast first? I'll grab something after. I'm too nervous to eat." The drive to Dr. Rashid's office was quiet, but Reed's hand found hers across the center console, his thumb tracing absent patterns on her palm. Sloane studied his profile. The strong nose, the slight worry line between his eyebrows, the way he bit his lip when he was thinking too hard. "Stop staring," Reed said without looking at her. "How did you—" "I can feel it. You always stare when you're trying to figure something out." "Do I?" "Always." Now he glanced at her, smiling. "Usually right before you say something devastatingly honest that I'm not prepared for." "Like what?" "Like telling me on our third date that you were falling in love with me and it terrified you. Or telling me on our wedding night that you'd never been so happy and so scared at the same time." His voice softened. "You don't hide things, Sloane. Not from me. Even when maybe you should." Dr. Rashid's office was busy this morning, but they were called back immediately. The neurologist was waiting in his office, tablet in hand, expression carefully neutral. "Sloane, Reed, have a seat." He gestured to the same couch from yesterday. I have your results. Sloane's stomach dropped. Reed's hand tightened on hers. The good news, Dr. Rashid continued, is that there's nothing structurally wrong with your brain. No tumors, no lesions, no signs of stroke or trauma. Your blood work came back normal. No infections, no vitamin deficiencies, thyroid function is perfect. That's good, Sloane ventured. It's very good. It means whatever's causing your amnesia isn't something we need to treat medically. Dr. Rashid set down the tablet. However, it also means the cause is likely psychological rather than physiological. Silence. You're saying it's in her head? Reed said carefully. I'm saying her brain is protecting her from something. Dr. Rashid leaned forward. Dissociative amnesia is a response to severe stress or trauma. The brain essentially hits a reset button to escape an overwhelming situation. Based on your history, the pressure of the gallery expansion, the conflict about starting a family, the general stress of your first year of marriage, my working theory is that your mind decided it needed a break. Sloane felt like she'd been punched. So I just opted out of my own life. Not consciously. This isn't something you chose or can control. Your brain perceived a threat, whether real or imagined, and this was its response. Dr. Rashid's expression was gentle. The question is, what was the trigger? What happened right before you lost your memory? Reed went very still beside her. The fight, he said quietly. About the baby. Tell me about it. Reed looked at Sloane, asking silent permission. She nodded. I pushed too hard, Reed said. She'd been working 18-hour days on the Miyamoto proposal, barely sleeping, barely eating. I was worried about her, and I was frustrated because I wanted to start a family and she kept putting it off. He swallowed hard. I said some things I shouldn't have. Implied she was using work as an excuse because she was scared of commitment, of being vulnerable, his voice cracked, of being like her mother. Sloane felt the words like a physical blow. What? Your mother worked herself to death trying to provide for you, Reed said, turning to face her. 3 jobs, constantly exhausted, never around. You told me you were terrified of doing that to your own kids, of being so focused on survival that you forgot how to actually be present. He wiped at his eyes. And I threw that in your face during an argument. I was cruel, and I'm sorry. Dr. Rashid was making notes. Sloane, how does hearing this make you feel? Angry, Sloane said immediately. At him for saying it. At myself for... She stopped. Because the fear Reed described wasn't foreign. Even without the memories of their fight, she understood it. Bone deep. For being scared, he was right. And when you woke up this morning, Dr. Rashid said, you didn't remember being married, didn't remember the gallery, didn't remember any of the pressure or stress. You were back to being the barista in Queens. Safe, small, uncomplicated. Are you saying I did this to myself? Sloane's voice came out harsh. That I'm so scared of success and happiness that my brain just erased it? I'm saying your mind was trying to protect you. Whether that protection was necessary is another question. Dr. Rashid looked between them. The memories are still there, Sloane. They're not gone. They're locked away. Small fragments are already coming back, which is a good sign. But to fully recover them, you'll need to confront whatever triggered the amnesia in the first place. And if she can't? Reed asked. If the memories never come back? Then you build new ones. Better ones, hopefully. Dr. Rashid stood, moving to a bookshelf and pulling down a leather journal. I want you both to do something. Keep a daily journal together. Write about your day, your feelings, your fears. Not just the good moments, but the hard ones too. Sloane needs to see that she can handle stress without her brain hitting the eject button. He handed the journal to Sloane. It was beautiful. Soft leather, blank pages, a ribbon bookmark. Start today, Dr. Rashid said. Write about this appointment, about how you're feeling right now. Both of you. They left the office in silence. Reed drove toward home but took an unexpected turn, pulling up to a small park overlooking the Hudson River. December wind whipped off the water, cold and sharp as they walked to a bench. I'm sorry, Reed said finally, for what I said during the fight, for pushing you when you weren't ready, for... Stop, Sloane turned to face him. I can't remember the fight, but I can imagine it. And knowing myself, even the version of myself I remember being, I probably said some awful things too. We both screwed up. That's generous. It's realistic. She pulled out the journal Dr. Rashid had given them. "You want to do this? The journal thing?" Reed nodded. "Yeah, I do." Sloane opened to the first page and wrote, December 19th, 2024. "Today I learned that my brain is a coward. It ran away from pressure and conflict and threw me back to a simpler time when my biggest problem was affording rent. But here's what I'm realizing. That simple life wasn't happy. It was safe, but it was small. The life I can't remember. The gallery, the marriage, the risk and chaos and terror of actually having something to lose. That life was bigger, scarier, but maybe that's what happiness costs. I don't remember falling in love with Reed, but I'm starting to understand why I did." She passed the journal to Reed, who read it and then added, "I've spent the last 24 hours terrified that I'd lost her. Not just her memory, but her. The woman who makes me want to be braver, who challenges me to actually live instead of just exist. Watching her wake up and not know me was the worst moment of my life. But maybe this is a gift, a chance to fall in love again, but better this time. Slower, more intentional. Without the pressure that broke us the first time. I'm choosing to see this as a beginning, not an ending. Also, Sloane still takes her coffee with too much cream and not enough sugar. Some things are universal." Sloane laughed despite the tears threatening to spill. "You're such a sap. You married me for it." "Apparently." She closed the journal and looked out at the river. "Reed, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't treat me like I'm broken. Don't walk on eggshells or hide things to protect me. If we're going to do this, rebuild or whatever, I need you to be real with me, even when it's hard." Reed studied her for a long moment. "Okay. Then here's real. I'm terrified. Terrified you'll remember and realize you married me too fast. Terrified you won't remember and we'll just be strangers pretending we're not. Terrified that I'll say the wrong thing and break whatever fragile thing we're building." He took her hand. "But I'm more terrified of losing you. So I'm going to show up every day and try, even when it's messy and complicated and scary. Because that's what you deserve. That's what we both deserve," Sloane corrected. "Messy and complicated and scary sounds about right for a marriage anyway. Is that what we're calling this? A marriage?" Sloane looked down at the gold band on her finger, the one she'd almost taken off a dozen times in the last 24 hours but hadn't. "I don't know what else to call it, but I'm willing to find out." Reed's smile was small but genuine. "Then let's go home. I'll make us lunch. You can explore more of the apartment, and we'll figure out how to be married to each other one weird day at a time." "Sounds perfect." They drove home through Manhattan traffic, past food trucks and rushing pedestrians, and a city that felt less foreign every minute. When they got back to the apartment, Sloane did something impulsive. She pulled Reed into a hug right there in the elevator. "Thank you," she said into his chest, "for being patient, for being here." Reed's arms came around her, solid and warm. Always. The elevator dinged at their floor, but neither moved for a long moment. When they finally pulled apart, Sloane caught something in Reed's expression, longing mixed with restraint, want tempered by respect. "What?" she asked. "Nothing, just you look like you right now. Not confused or lost or trying to figure things out, just you." "Maybe that's enough," Sloane said. "For today. It's more than enough." Inside the apartment, Reed pulled out ingredients to make sandwiches while Sloane explored more thoroughly than she had the day before. She found Reed's office, organized chaos, walls covered with sticky notes and architectural sketches, a photo of them on the desk. She found her own space, a small room converted into a studio with art supplies and half-finished canvases. One painting caught her eye, an abstract piece in blues and golds, still wet, clearly recent. Something about it tugged at her memory. She'd been working on this recently. The brushstrokes felt familiar under her fingers. "That's your newest piece," Reed said from the doorway. "You finished it 2 nights ago, the night before we fought." Sloane studied the painting. "What does it mean?" "You said it was about transformation, about the space between who you were and who you're becoming." Reed moved to stand beside her. "You said it scared you because you didn't know if the transformation would be worth the pain of changing. Heavy stuff for a painting." "You're a heavy stuff kind of person," Sloane laughed. "Yeah, I'm starting to remember that about myself." They ate lunch on the balcony despite the cold. Grilled cheese and tomato soup, simple and perfect. Reed told her stories about their relationship. The time she dragged him to a modern art exhibit that was literally just an empty room. It's about negative space, Reed. The time he surprised her with tickets to Paris, and she cried because she'd never been on a plane before. The time they got into a screaming match about whether it was acceptable to put pineapple on pizza. She said yes, he said absolutely not. They agreed to disagree. With every story, Sloane felt herself settling into this life. Not remembering exactly, but accepting. This was who she'd become, who she'd chosen to be. "What time is the Miyamoto meeting tomorrow?" she asked. 9 a.m. "But we don't have to." "I want to do it." Sloane set down her soup. "I know I don't remember preparing the proposal, but it's my gallery, my dream. I can't hide from it just because my brain threw a tantrum." Reed smiled. "There's my wife. Don't get ahead of yourself. Still figuring out the wife thing." "Fair enough." He stood, collecting their dishes. "But for what it's worth, you're doing great at it so far." As the afternoon faded into evening, Sloane found herself on the couch with Reed, supposedly reviewing the Miyamoto proposal on his laptop, but mostly just existing in the same space. Reed worked on something for his company, frowning at spreadsheets. Sloane read through her notes about the gallery expansion, forcing herself to absorb information about artists and budgets and timelines. Her phone buzzed. "Jenna, boss lady, the journalist from New York Magazine can do 2 p.m. tomorrow after your investor meeting. Should I confirm?" Sloane looked at Reed. "What do you think? Am I ready to be interviewed? You prepped for weeks. All the information is in your head even if you don't remember putting it there." He tilted his head. "But if you're not comfortable, I'll do it." Sloane typed back a confirmation to Jenna. "Fake it till I make it, right?" "That's the spirit." As night fell, they made dinner together. Pasta carbonara, which Reed claimed was one of her favorites. They moved around the kitchen with surprising coordination, Reed handling the bacon while Sloane whisked eggs and cheese. It felt domestic, comfortable, like something they'd done 100 times before, because they had. After dinner, they settled on the couch with the journal. Sloane wrote about the day, the doctor's appointment, the park, the painting in her studio, the growing sense that maybe she could do this. Reed added his own thoughts, more vulnerable this time, admitting his fears and hopes in equal measure. When they finished, Sloane closed the journal and looked at Reed, really looked at him. This man who'd been a stranger 36 hours ago, but who felt increasingly familiar with every passing minute. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Always. When did you know that you loved me?" Reed didn't hesitate. "The Museum of Modern Art, 3 hours into our first date. You were explaining a Jackson Pollock. You said chaos isn't the opposite of meaning. It's a different kind of order. That we spend too much time looking for straight lines when the truth is usually in the mess." He smiled. "You got paint on your nose somehow. I still don't know how. We weren't near any paint. And you were so animated, so alive. And I thought, I want to watch this woman explain the universe to me for the rest of my life." Sloane's breath caught. Wow. Your turn. When did you know?" "I don't remember. But you can guess. Based on what you're learning about yourself." Sloane thought about it. About the notes saved in her phone, the painting in her studio, the way her body relaxed when Reed was near. Probably early. Probably scared the living daylights out of me. I probably fought it tooth and nail before admitting it. "You did," Reed laughed. "You told me you loved me during an argument. We were fighting about something stupid, I don't even remember what. And you just stopped mid-sentence and said, 'I'm in love with you, and it's ruining my life.' Then you kissed me and we forgot what we were fighting about." "Sounds like me." It was very you. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that felt earned. Eventually, Reed stood and offered his hand. "Come on, it's late and you have a big day tomorrow." Sloane took his hand and let him pull her up. They went through the evening routine, brushing teeth, changing into pajamas, setting alarms. It felt ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. In bed, in the darkness, Sloane felt Reed's hand find hers between the sheets again. "Reed," she whispered. "Yeah? I'm glad I married you, even if I don't remember doing it." His hand tightened on hers. "I'm glad you married me too, even if you're currently experiencing buyer's remorse." Not remorse, more like cautious optimism. "I'll take it." Sloane fell asleep holding hands with her stranger husband, and this time when she dreamed, she saw more than fragments. She saw a man with kind eyes and terrible ties, a gallery full of light and possibility, and a version of herself brave enough to claim both. Sloane woke to the sound of rain against the windows and Reed's arm draped across her waist. Sometime during the night, the careful distance they'd maintained had dissolved. She was tucked against his chest, his chin resting on top of her head, their legs tangled together in a way that suggested this was their normal sleeping position. She should have felt panicked. Instead, she felt safe. Carefully, she extracted herself and padded to the kitchen. The Miyamoto meeting was in 3 hours. The New York Magazine interview was right after. And somewhere between the coffee maker and catastrophic failure, she had to figure out how to pretend she remembered building the gallery she was about to defend. No pressure. She was pouring her second cup of coffee when Reed emerged. Hair adorably mussed, still in pajamas. "You're up early," he said, voice rough with sleep. "Couldn't sleep, too much anxiety about the meeting." Sloane handed him a mug. Black, 2 sugars, exactly how he took it. She knew that now, even if she couldn't remember learning it. What if I mess this up? What if they ask me something I should know but don't? Reed took the coffee and set it down, then pulled her into a hug. "Then you'll handle it. You always do. You have a lot of faith in a woman who forgot 3 months of her life. I have faith in you. Memory or not, you're still the most capable person I know." He pulled back to look at her. "Besides, Jenna emailed you the entire presentation last night. Did you read it? 3 times. Then you're prepared. The rest is just showing them why they should bet on you." Reed smiled. "Which is easy because you're brilliant and passionate and impossible not to believe in. Flatterer. Truth-teller." He kissed her forehead. Quick, casual, like he'd done it 1,000 times. Which he probably had. "Now go get dressed. Show them the Sloane Whitmore who convinced me to burn a hideous tie and change my entire life." An hour later, Sloane stood in front of her closet wearing the power suit from 2 days ago. Navy blazer, cream blouse, pencil skirt. She looked like someone who belonged in boardrooms and investor meetings. Someone who had her life together. Fake it till you make it. Reed drove them to the gallery through rain-slicked streets. Jenna was already there, tablet in hand, looking stressed. "Thank everything you're here," Jenna said, rushing over. "Miyamoto Group just arrived. They brought their head of acquisitions. Didn't mention that little detail before. Also, the projector is being weird, so we might need to present off the laptop instead." "It's fine," Sloane said with more confidence than she felt. "We'll figure it out." Jenna blinked. "Are you okay? You seem different." "Different how?" "Calmer. Usually before big meetings you're vibrating at a frequency only dogs can hear." Jenna looked between Sloane and Reed. "Did something happen?" "Just a change in perspective," Sloane said, which wasn't technically a lie. The Miyamoto Group representatives were waiting in the gallery's main room. Keiko Miyamoto, the 2 men from before, and a new woman in her 60s who radiated the kind of power that comes from decades of making million-dollar decisions. "Ms. Whitmore," Keiko said, introducing the newcomer. "This is Margaret Chen, our head of acquisitions. She wanted to see the proposal herself." Margaret extended her hand. "I've heard interesting things about your gallery. Small operation, big vision. I'm curious if the reality matches the reputation." Sloane shook her hand and something clicked. This woman wasn't here to be impressed. She was here to be convinced. And Sloane realized suddenly that she had something Margaret Chen didn't. Absolute belief in what she was selling. Because even if she didn't remember building the gallery, she'd seen it, walked through it, felt the care and intention in every piece displayed on these walls. This place mattered, memory or not. "Ms. Chen," Sloane said, "let me show you something before we start." She led the group to a corner of the gallery where a series of small paintings hung, urban landscapes in vibrant, almost chaotic colors. The artist's signature in the corner read, "Marcus J." "This artist was selling paintings on the subway platform 6 months ago," Sloane said. $20 each. I saw his work, saw his potential, and invited him to show here. Critics called his style undisciplined and amateurish. They said I was wasting wall space on someone who needed art school, not gallery representation. Were they right? Margaret asked. They were wrong. Last month, Marcus sold a piece for $15,000 to a collector in Singapore. He's now taking commissions and supporting his family. His mother, his younger sister who's in college. Sloane gestured to the paintings. This is what the Whitmore Gallery does. We don't wait for artists to prove themselves by someone else's standards. We recognize talent where others see risk and we bet on it. Because that's not just good ethics, it's good business. She pulled up the presentation on Jenna's tablet. And for the next hour, Sloane became someone she barely recognized but desperately wanted to be. She talked about market trends, profit margins, expansion strategies. She answered questions she shouldn't have known the answers to, pulling information from some deep part of her brain that remembered even when she consciously didn't. Reed watched from the corner, and every time Sloane glanced his way, he was smiling. When she finished, Margaret Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You're asking for $3 million. I am. That's a substantial investment for a gallery that's only been open 18 months. It is. But the ROI projections are conservative. We're estimating 40% growth over 3 years. Based on our current trajectory, that's undershooting." Sloane pulled up another slide. "And it's not just about the money. Investing in Whitmore Gallery means investing in the next generation of artists who won't get opportunities elsewhere. It means being part of something that changes the cultural landscape, not just capitalizes on it." Margaret exchanged glances with Keiko, then turned back to Sloane. "We'll need to discuss internally, of course, but I'm impressed. You have a clear vision and the numbers to back it up." She stood, extending her hand. "We'll have a decision for you by end of week." After they left, Sloane collapsed into a chair. Jenna was beaming. "That was incredible," Jenna said. "Like scary good. You didn't even use your notes." "Adrenaline is a powerful thing," Sloane managed. Reed crossed the gallery and crouched in front of her chair. "You were perfect." "I was terrified. Didn't show." He took her hands. "I'm so proud of you. Don't get ahead of yourself. They haven't said yes yet. They will." Reed's confidence was absolute. "Because you just showed them exactly why you're worth betting on." Before Sloane could respond, a woman in her 40s entered the gallery, camera around her neck, notebook in hand. "Sloane Whitmore? I'm Rachel Park from New York Magazine. I'm a few minutes early. Hope that's okay." Sloane looked at Reed, who squeezed her hands once and stood. "I'll grab us lunch. You've got this." The interview was easier than Sloane expected. Rachel was less interested in business strategy and more interested in Sloane's story. How she went from barista to gallery owner. What drove her, what scared her. "So you just decided one day to open a gallery?" Rachel asked, scribbling notes. "Not exactly." Sloane thought about the woman she'd been 3 days ago. Broke, scared, safe. And the woman she was now, still scared but braver about it. "I think I spent years telling myself I couldn't do it. That people like me, people without money or connections or formal training, didn't get to have dreams like this. And then one day, I realized the only thing stopping me was me." "What changed?" Sloane glanced at Reed, who'd returned with Thai food and was setting it up in the gallery's small office. "I met someone who believed in me more than I believed in myself. He made me think that maybe I was allowed to want more, to be more." "Your husband?" "Yeah." Sloane smiled. He's the reason I took the risk." Rachel looked between them, something knowing in her expression. "That's a great love story. Mind if I include it in the piece?" "Sure, why not?" After Rachel left, Sloane and Reed ate lunch surrounded by art and possibility. Sloane kept stealing glances at the paintings on the walls. Marcus's urban landscapes, a sculptor's abstract pieces, a photographer's stark black and white portraits. She'd chosen these, believed in these artists, built this space. "I think I'm starting to understand," she said quietly. "Understand what?" "Why I fought so hard to remember. This life. It's not perfect, but it's mine. I built it. I earned it." She met Reed's eyes. "I don't want to lose it again." "Then don't." Reed reached across the table to take her hand. "Whatever triggered the amnesia, the stress, the fight, the fear, we'll deal with it. Together. But Sloane, you have to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll tell me when you're overwhelmed. When the pressure gets to be too much. When you're scared." His grip tightened. "We can't fix what we don't talk about." "I promise." Sloane took a breath. "And you have to promise me something too. Anything." "Quit your job." Reed blinked. "What?" "You hate it. You told me yesterday you want to teach history, not run your father's empire, so quit. Do what makes you happy." Sloane leaned forward. "You helped me build my dream. Let me help you build yours." "It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple. Life's too short to be miserable just because it's expected." She squeezed his hand. "Didn't you tell me that once? That I should risk it because I deserved to be happy?" Reed laughed, but his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Using my own advice against me, that's low. That's marriage." Sloane grinned. From what I understand about it anyway. You're not wrong. Reed was quiet for a moment. My father will lose his mind. Probably, but he'll get over it. And if he doesn't, that's his problem, not yours. When did you get so wise? About 3 hours ago when I convinced a room full of investors to give me $3 million. Sloane stood and pulled Reed up with her. Come on, let's go home. I want to paint something. They drove back through Manhattan in comfortable silence. When they got to the apartment, Sloane went straight to her studio. The unfinished painting from 2 nights ago, Blues and Golds, Transformation and Change, called to her. She picked up a brush and started adding layers. Reed appeared in the doorway, watching. What are you adding? He asked. Light, Sloane said. The original was all about the darkness of change, the pain and uncertainty. But I'm realizing that's only half the story. There's also the light on the other side, the possibility. She worked for hours, Reed bringing her water and snacks, occasionally offering opinions she mostly ignored. The painting evolved from something anxious and turbulent into something hopeful, still chaotic, still messy, but beautiful in its disorder. When she finally stepped back, Reed moved to stand beside her. It's perfect, he said. It's not finished. Nothing ever is. That's the point. Sloane set down her brush and turned to face him. He had a smudge of blue paint on his cheek from where she'd accidentally brushed against him earlier. His hair was messy from running his hands through it. He looked tired and real and absolutely perfect. Reed, she said, I need to tell you something. Okay, I'm falling in love with you. He went very still. What? I know I already did. 3 months ago or 10 months ago, whenever it was. But I'm doing it again. Right now. Falling in love with you all over again. She took his hand. And I wanted you to know because tomorrow I might remember everything. Or I might not. But either way, this is real. What I'm feeling now is real. Reed's hands came up to frame her face. Sloane. And I'm scared, she continued, the words tumbling out. I'm scared of being a mother because what if I mess up the way my mother did? I'm scared of success because what if I can't handle it? I'm scared of loving you because what if I lose you? But I'm more scared of letting fear make my decisions. So I'm choosing this. Us. Even though it's terrifying. You're not your mother, Reed said firmly. You're not going to mess up. And even if you do, even if we both do, we'll figure it out together. That's what we signed up for. In sickness and in health, in amnesia and in memory, in fear and in bravery, in chaos and in order. He leaned his forehead against hers. I love you, both versions of you, the one who remembers and the one who doesn't. Because at the core, you're the same person. Smart, stubborn, impossibly brave, my wife. Your wife, Sloane repeated, testing the words. I think I like the sound of that. Good, because you're stuck with me. She kissed him then, and it was nothing like their first kiss had probably been. Not tentative or exploratory or new. This kiss was familiar territory, muscle memory, coming home. Her hands found their way to his hair, his arms wrapped around her waist, and for a moment everything else disappeared. When they finally pulled apart, Sloane was breathless and laughing. So that's what kissing my husband feels like, she said. Disappointed? Absolutely not. Let's do it again. They did. Later they ordered dinner, that Thai place from their first date, and ate on the couch, trading bites of pad Thai and spring rolls. Sloane found herself telling Reed about her childhood, things he probably already knew but listened to anyway. He told her about his father, about the pressure of being the heir to an empire he never wanted. I'm going to do it, Reed said suddenly. Quit. Tell my father I'm out. Yeah? Yeah, you're right. Life's too short. He pulled out his phone and typed a quick email. There. Meeting requested for tomorrow morning. No backing out now. I'm proud of you, Sloane said. I learned from the best. They wrote in their journal together, Sloane documenting the investor meeting, the interview, the painting, the revelation that she was falling in love again. Reed wrote about watching her command the room, about his decision to finally choose his own path, about the terrifying beauty of starting over. This is us, Sloane wrote at the end. Messy and complicated and imperfect, but ours. In bed that night, Sloane lay awake long after Reed had fallen asleep. She studied his face in the darkness, the curve of his jaw, the slight smile he wore even unconscious, the way his hand reached for hers even in sleep. And then, like a dam breaking, the memories came, not all at once, Not violently, but gently, like pieces of a puzzle sliding into place. She remembered their first date, remembered burning the tie in his fireplace while he laughed, remembered the Museum of Modern Art, getting lost in the Pollocks, the way he'd looked at her when she explained why chaos could be beautiful. She remembered their second date, their fifth, their 10th, remembered the night he told her he loved her, the night she said it back, remembered his proposal, awkward and perfect, in her coffee shop after hours, down on one knee beside the espresso machine. She remembered their wedding, small, intimate, just their closest friends. She'd worn a simple dress from a vintage shop and he'd cried when he saw her. They'd written their own vows, promised to choose each other every day even when it was hard. She remembered opening the gallery, the terror and exhilaration of signing the lease, of choosing the first artists, of watching people walk through her doors and fall in love with the work she'd curated. She remembered the fights. The big one about her working too much, the bigger one about starting a family. Remembered Reed saying she was using the gallery as an excuse. Remembered the way those words had hit like a physical blow because they were true. She remembered going to bed angry that night. Remembered closing her eyes and thinking, I can't do this. I can't be what he needs. I can't be a mother. I'll ruin everything. And then she remembered waking up with nothing. Reset. Safe. Sloane looked at Reed sleeping beside her and felt tears slip down her cheeks. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of it all. The love, the fear, the choice to keep going anyway. I remember, she whispered to the darkness. I remember everything. Reed stirred, his eyes opening. Sloane, what's wrong? Nothing. She smiled through the tears. Everything. I remember, Reed. All of it. He sat up immediately, fully awake. You, what? When? Just now, it all came back. She took his hand and placed it over her heart. Our first date, the terrible tie, the museum, our wedding, the fight we had, everything. Reed's expression was complicated. Relief and fear and hope all tangled together. And I'm still scared. Still terrified of messing up, of not being enough, of failing at this whole wife and maybe someday mother thing. She squeezed his hand. But I'm also brave enough to try. Because you were right. I have been using the gallery as an excuse. Not because I don't want a family, but because I didn't think I deserved one. I didn't think I could be both. Successful and present, ambitious and available. You can be both, Reed said. You are both. I'm starting to believe that. Sloane shifted closer. And I'm sorry for shutting down during the fight, for literally erasing myself rather than dealing with the problem. That wasn't fair to either of us. I'm sorry too. For pushing when you weren't ready. For saying things designed to hurt. Reed pulled her into his arms. So what now? You have your memory back. Do we just go back to normal? I don't think there is a normal for us, Sloane said. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we make our own normal. One where we talk about the hard stuff instead of letting it build up. One where we're honest about being scared. One where we choose each other even when it's complicated. I can do that. Reed kissed her temple. And the baby thing? Sloane took a breath. I'm not ready yet, but I will be. Soon. I just need to finish the gallery expansion first. Prove to myself that I can handle both. Can you wait for that? I can wait. Reed's voice was soft. As long as we're in this together, I can wait. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the darkness. Eventually, Sloane felt herself starting to drift off, warm and safe and home. Reed, she murmured, half asleep. Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me, for staying even when I forgot you. Always, Reed said. That's what we promised. For better or worse. In amnesia and in memory. Exactly. Sloane fell asleep with her husband's arms around her and her memories intact, and dreamed of the future they'd build together. Messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. Epilogue 6 months later. Sloane stood in the expanded Whitmore Gallery, watching people mill through the new wing. The Miyamoto Group's investment had funded everything she'd imagined and more. Double the space. Capacity for larger installations. A dedicated area for emerging artists. Marcus's paintings hung in a place of honor, now commanding $50,000 each. The collector from Singapore had come back for 3 more. Jenna appeared at her elbow, tablet in hand. Boss, the photographer from Vogue is here for your 3 o'clock. Vogue? Really? Really. You're officially a big deal now. Jenna grinned. Try not to let it go to your head. No promises. Sloane excused herself and headed to the office where Reed was waiting. He'd quit his father's company 4 months ago, had just finished his teaching certification, and would start at a Brooklyn high school in the fall. His father was still barely speaking to him, but Reed seemed lighter than Sloane had ever seen him. Ready for this? Reed asked. Sloane looked down at her stomach. Still flat, not showing yet. They'd found out 2 weeks ago, 12 weeks along, due in December. It had been planned this time, a conscious choice made together after months of therapy and conversation and building trust. She was still terrified, but she was also excited, because she wasn't doing this alone. Ready, she said, taking his hand. Together they walked back into the gallery, into the life they'd built and almost lost and fought like crazy to keep. It wasn't perfect. They still fought, still struggled, still had moments of doubt and fear, but it was theirs. And that was more than enough. As Sloane posed for the Vogue photographer, Reed watching from the sidelines with that same adoring expression he'd worn since their first date, she thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, the one who'd woken up with no memory, no past, no anchors. That woman had been terrified of the life she couldn't remember. This woman, the one with her memories intact and her future unfolding, was just brave enough to keep choosing it. Every messy, complicated, beautiful day. The end.